My neighbor came home crying from a bad date. Then whispered, "I don't want to be alone tonight." I never thought I would attend my high school reunion. For years, I convinced myself I was too busy, too successful, too far removed from the awkward teenager I used to be. But if I were completely honest, there was another reason. I didn't want to see her. Not because I hated her. Because I never stopped wondering what might have happened if I had just asked her out. Back in high school, everyone knew Emma. She wasn't the loudest girl or the most popular one, but somehow she lit up every room she walked into. She had this effortless smile that made people feel comfortable. And she remembered everyone's name, even the quiet kids who sat in the back of the classroom, including me. I was the shy guy who spent more time sketching in notebooks than talking to people. Emma always treated me differently. She'd sit beside me during chemistry class, borrow my notes even when she didn't need them, and laugh at jokes that weren't even funny. Looking back now, I wonder if she was trying to tell me something. But 17-year-old me was completely clueless. Then came our senior prom. After weeks of working up the courage, I finally bought 2 movie tickets and planned to ask Emma out after graduation. It was going to be my first real date. I even practiced what I wanted to say in front of the bathroom mirror, but life had other plans. The night before graduation, my father suffered a serious heart attack. Everything changed overnight. Instead of celebrating with friends, I spent the next several weeks sleeping in hospital waiting rooms while helping my mother keep our family together. When graduation day finally arrived, I barely made it to the ceremony. Afterward, everyone scattered in different directions. Emma left for college across the country. I stayed behind to help my family. And the movie tickets stayed folded inside my wallet until they faded into blank pieces of paper. 20 years passed faster than I expected. Life wasn't bad. I built a career as an architect, bought a small house, and surrounded myself with work. Friends often asked why I never got married. I'd laugh and blame my schedule. The truth was much harder to explain. Some people quietly become the standard your heart measures everyone else against. Emma had become mine. When the reunion invitation arrived, I ignored it for weeks. But something kept pulling me back to it. Maybe curiosity, maybe regret, or maybe I simply wanted to close a chapter that had remained unfinished for 2 decades. The hotel ballroom looked almost exactly how you'd imagine a reunion. Old classmates laughed over forgotten stories. Music from our teenage years echoed through the room. Photo boards displayed faded yearbook pictures beside current family portraits. I recognized faces, but struggled to match them with the teenagers I remembered. Everyone looked older. Everyone except the memories. I grabbed a glass of sparkling water and slipped onto the outdoor balcony, overlooking the city. The cool evening air felt easier to breathe than the crowded ballroom. Still hiding from parties? A familiar voice froze me in place. I turned slowly. Standing only a few feet away was Emma. She looked different, of course. Older, more confident, but those warm brown eyes hadn't changed at all. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. It was the exact same smile I'd carried in my memory for 20 years. "I knew it was you," she said softly. "I saw you disappear out here." I laughed nervously. "Some habits never change." "No," she replied, "they don't." There was another long silence. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with years that neither of us knew how to summarize. Finally, she stepped closer. "You know," she said, folding her arms with a playful grin, "there's actually something I've wanted to tell you for a very long time." My heart suddenly started beating, like it had when I was 17. "What is it?" She looked directly into my eyes. Then, with a smile that carried 20 years of unfinished history, she quietly said, "You still owe me that date." I stared at her, completely speechless, because I had never told anyone about those movie tickets. Not a single person. So how could she possibly know? For several seconds, I couldn't say a word. The noise from inside the ballroom faded into the background as I stared at Emma, trying to understand what she had just said. "You knew?" I finally whispered. She tilted her head and smiled. "I've known for 20 years. I frowned. "That's impossible." "It isn't," she said. She leaned against the balcony railing, looking out at the city lights before speaking again. "Do you remember the day before graduation?" I nodded slowly. "My dad had his heart attack." Her smile softened. "I know." That answer caught me off guard. "You know?" "My mom was a nurse at the hospital where he was admitted," she said quietly. "She came home that night and told me one of her patient's teenage sons had refused to leave his father's bedside." I blinked. "I never knew that." "Of course you didn't." She looked down at her hands. "I wanted to visit, but my mother thought it would be inappropriate. She said your family needed privacy." A strange ache settled in my chest. For 20 years I had believed Emma simply disappeared from my life. Now I was learning she had been thinking about me too. But that still doesn't explain the date. Emma laughed softly. "You always carried that old brown leather wallet." I nodded. "You dropped it in the school parking lot after graduation rehearsal." Suddenly, the memory came rushing back. I remembered searching everywhere for my wallet, before finding it on my car seat later that afternoon. "I picked it up before you noticed," she smiled. "And when I opened it to see whose it was," she paused dramatically, "I found 2 movie tickets." My face burned with embarrassment. Oh no. There was also a tiny folded piece of paper. I froze. The note. The one I had written at least 15 times before settling on the final version. Emma looked directly at me. It said, "I know this is probably crazy, but would you go on a date with me after graduation?" I covered my face with one hand. "I can't believe you read that." "I wasn't trying to invade your privacy." "I know. I just wanted to know whose wallet I'd found." She laughed. And then I saw my own name. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked the question that had haunted me for decades. "Why didn't you say anything?" Her smile slowly faded. "Because I never got the chance." She explained that after returning my wallet, she planned to find me after the graduation ceremony. Instead, someone told her my father had been rushed back into intensive care. The next morning, she and her family left for Boston for college orientation. She waited for a phone call, a message, anything. Nothing ever came. "I thought you'd changed your mind," she admitted. "And I thought you weren't interested." They both laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable how 2 people could care so much about each other and still miss every opportunity. "So," I asked carefully, "ever want to go?" Emma looked at me as if the answer should have been obvious. "I bought a new dress for that date." My heart skipped. "You did?" "I thought you were going to ask me during graduation." She smiled through slightly watery eyes. "I even told my best friend I hoped you'd finally stop being so shy." I shook my head. "I spent months trying to gather enough courage." "I know. You knew that too?" She laughed. "Daniel, everyone knew except you." For the first time in years, I laughed so hard that my eyes watered. All those years, all those missed chances, all because 2 nervous teenagers had been too afraid to say what they felt. The music inside changed to an old song from senior year. Emma looked toward the ballroom. "They're playing our graduation song." She held out her hand. "So?" I looked at it. "So? You still owe me a date." I smiled. "And I suppose dancing is part of the debt?" She raised one eyebrow. "It's a good place to start." I took her hand. For the first time in 20 years,